Welcome in, everyone. Thank you so much for taking some time to jump on today's call for our Lake Effect series. We certainly appreciate you joining us from wherever you are in the United States or the world. Appreciate you all taking some time. My name is Dylan George. I'm an Associate Director of Admissions here at Hobart Williams Smith. And I just want to take a moment and congratulate you all for being admitted to Hobart Williams Smith. This is sort of the exciting time of year for admissions and for the rest of our community, where we're starting to see folks pay their deposits and just become part of our HWS family. So I'm so excited to see so many faces, some familiar, some new, on today's call. And congratulations again on becoming a Civic Scholar. So we certainly appreciate you all and for putting yourself out there throughout the application process. I know that it can be challenging, quite tedious, but we certainly appreciate all of you taking so much time to put your best self forward. And I am joined tonight by our folks from the Center for Community Engagement and Service Learning to talk a little bit about service learning, to talk a little bit about what it means to be a Civic Scholar. A couple of housekeeping items for tonight's session. Tonight's session is being recorded. So you can certainly refer back to tonight's session at a later date on our YouTube channel. If you do have questions throughout tonight's call, certainly feel free to utilize the meeting chat. I will be monitoring that in the background while Katie and Peter give you all the beautiful things and talk to you a little bit about community engagement and what it means to be a Civic Scholar. So certainly feel free to utilize the chat function. I'll manage any questions coming in. But I'm going to turn it over to our lovely friends, Katie and Peter, to do a little bit of an introduction and to talk a little bit about, tonight's session. So I'll turn it over to you two.
Great. Thank you so much, Dylan. Nice to meet you all. Happy almost May. I can't believe how quickly April is flying by. I'm Katie. I oversee the Center for Community Engagement and Service Learning. Um, Everyone loves acronyms in higher education, so students refer to it as CECL. I had a 5-year plan. I'm from New Hampshire. I saw somebody was at Kearsarge, so that's just down the way from where I grew up. But I got to tell you, that was 20 years ago because I've fallen in love with the Hobart and William Smith community. I've fallen in love with Geneva. And tonight we're going to just share a few examples of the ways in which HWS and the Geneva community work very closely together. So congratulations on being accepted for the Civic Engagement Scholar. And I would love for my colleague and dear friend Peter to introduce himself.
Good evening, all, and welcome to upstate New York. We're so excited to meet you all. As Katie and Dylan said, my name's Peter Budman. I am the Associate Director in the Center for Community Engagement and Service Learning. I also wear the hat, quite literally, I'm wearing a hat this evening, but I also wear the hat of being a proud alum. Class of 2015, stayed on for my master's in elementary and special education, and graduated with that in 2016. So Hobart William Smith, very near and dear to my heart. Geneva as well. I got my start in education with the local Head Start program here in town. Just in amazed at all that they could do and how far they could take students and get them ready for kindergarten. And so ultimately, I'm happy to be back and supporting our students and giving back to the community that we call home. So with that said, Katie and I have some introductory kind of slides for you all. But before we do that, we'd love to hear from you all. Where are you calling in from this evening? I guess if you would also share both where you're calling in from and maybe one of the most proud initiatives you've participated in throughout your K-12 experience when it comes to civic engagement work, whether it be, nonpartisan work, volunteer work. So if you're brave enough and you want to come off chat and share with us, we'd love that. If not, if you want to drop it in the chat, where do you call home and a proud civic engagement initiative that you've participated in? Anyone willing to come off chat and share with us? Yeah, Riley.
Hi.
Riley, I feel like you're ready. Go for it.
Hi, I'm Riley. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So not too far away. It has been very warm today. I'm very happy about that. I think my most proud one is I volunteer at a women's shelter called Hearth here in Pittsburgh. And they have a lot of children there. So I volunteer for their daycare and development program where we work with like homework and tutoring, but also just with like the little toddlers. I've been doing that for a couple years now, and honestly, it's just been amazing. I love little kids and I love being able to be part of their lives and watching them go to school and everything.
That sounds like an incredible experience, Riley. I don't know about you, but I was a first grade teacher for a while, and I never have I slept so good after working with those little ones. They
Oh,
tire you
you've been,
out.
yeah,
So,
you have to chase them for a while.
absolutely. So, and it looks like Cora and Godfrey. Cora, that's an incredible feat. Recycling 1,000 pounds of plastic. I don't even know how many plastic bags that is, but maybe you do. And Godfred, we're excited to have you calling in from Ghana. So. Too many, Cora. I can understand that. And we'll share an experience about one of the ways in which we like to reduce, reuse, and recycle some of the items we have here on campus, and maybe that might be something you're interested in partaking in. So, well, that's so exciting, and we're thrilled to have such energy and initiative coming to campus here. Yeah, Katie, you want to kick it off with kind of a little bit
Sure,
more about our.
absolutely. So I'm going to share a screen. We don't like to just talk at you, but I just wanted to give you a visual representation of a lot of the projects that we hope that you see yourselves a part of over the next 4 years. So there's about 20 slides. We're going to take like half a minute per slide, so probably maybe 10 minutes. So, but feel free to pop questions into the chat, and Dylan can help us out with that. So with that, we will get started, and hopefully you can see the full screen. So this is us again, Cecil, and this is our team. We are located on the second floor of Trinity Hall. Can you see okay? Thumbs up.
Looks great,
Perfect.
Katie.
We have a wonderful team of civic leaders. That's the bulletin board picture that students like yourselves that come in freshman year, just really rearing to get involved and then take on a sequential level of leadership opportunities throughout the community. So Liam, who's featured far right as our senior civic leader, he's a kind of like our team captain for our team of civic leaders. As you get to become familiar with Geneva, we're located at the north end of the lake where that arrow is. So we're just a short walk from downtown Geneva, about 10 minutes. And here's our socials and whatnot for communicating with us after the presentation. Here is our mission and vision. You can read that at your leisure. And then this is the ways in which we really hope to scale up the level of involvement that, community service, certainly something folks are interested in, a part of. You all are stellar leaders in your community, which is why you're here tonight. And then just taking that the next level. So, Riley mentioned that she worked with children. We have a robust tutoring initiative, and she does that for a semester or two, and then she could become a team leader, or we call them coordinators at a tutor corps. We could do an alternative spring break trip over March break, number of locations folks could travel to, and then the next year take that on as a leadership role. You could participate and help out with our community donation steward program, which we'll talk about, and then the next year kind of help lead a team of students. So escalating towards involvement, capacity, perhaps even reflecting on responsibility as we evolve as citizens and what's our role in our community, so that we can take on more and more civic leadership, so that ultimately when you graduate in 4 years, you will kind of unpack what it means to lead a life of consequence. So what does it mean to be an engaged citizen? That's for you to decide. So that's theoretical, but in a nutshell, I just wanted to make sure we're here year round. So certainly we don't close up shop in mid-May when students graduate. We have very happy, busy students. We have a thriving community, which we'll talk a little bit about as well. But that's just kind of an overview of Cecil. And then I just wanted to have Peter kick off Day of Service, which we just wrapped up our 31st year.
Yeah, so 31st year of this initiative. The first weekend you all come to campus as part of the orientation experience. You'll participate in your first day of service, an opportunity to go out, meet your neighbors, serve alongside of them, and hear from some of the incredible community partners that host us year round. This day of service is hosted 3 times annually, so once during orientation, once again in the fall, and then once in the spring. Many of our community partners rely on our students' assistance, and just about 2 weeks ago at this point, we had about 300 students out there on a rainy day
Mhm.
serving, and it was an incredible experience for all involved. And we're so grateful to the many students who turn out, show up, and do the work. So.
Sorry, it's not letting me advance now. Habitat for Humanity is an example of a club that we have. Folks might be familiar with the partnership about housing equity, where you work in solidarity with folks who are needing some support with a house. So we have a student club. I encourage you to follow them on Instagram. Same thing with Day of Service. We try to put the stuff on the bottom so you can kind of get a pulse for what they're up to. Again, just service clubs here, ranging from Best Buddies, working with people with intellectual disabilities, campus greens. We have a thriving EMS club. Those students learn how to obviously become CPR certified, but then they go on rounds and help out throughout the weekends. And we're actually a heart healthy campus, which means that over 5% of our campus has taken CPR, which Peter and I have, thankfully. And so that was a big designation led by that student effort. And food recovery, the picture bottom right, we were talking about that earlier today.
HWS Votes is our nonpartisan student voter coalition. So we don't care how you vote. We want to make sure that you have a plan and you exercise that right. We just celebrated 20 years this past fall, founded by current trustee, class of 2007 student Jane Erickson. And we do everything from voter engagement, voter education, and making sure that students have a plan to exercise that right. So we've hosted some really incredible bipartisan conversations. Everyone from former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie and Democratic strategist James Carville. We during the midterms hosted former Secretary of Agriculture Dan Glickman and New York State Senator John Faso. So really thinking about how do we tackle these tough issues in a bipartisan manner. And so if that's your jam, we'd love to have you. You can see President Guerin, who served under the Clinton administration. He is a great supporter of ours when it comes to HWS Votes. And our students are incredibly passionate and dedicated to this work, making sure that their peers have the access to exercise their vote effectively.
The lunch program, it serves meals Monday through Friday, 52 weeks a year. It's a kind of a a surprising fact when folks come here because they feel like, wow, Geneva is a small city, but we're surrounded by farmland. It's quite a contrast to imagine poverty or food insecurity in a city where there's Wegmans right there or farms nearby. But that certainly is a compelling case across America, and it's also unfortunately true for Geneva. But 8 days throughout the year of that schedule, Hobart William Smith takes those schedules. So folks are familiar, I'm sure, with soup kitchens, and it's similar to that. It's walkable to campus. It's about 3 blocks from campus. And then similar to food insecurity or voting, again, with that compass model in mind, students might get involved on a Thursday with their floor or a team or, a class, and then they're starting to think about, inequity in our community, or how, children are impacted if programs are closed during February or April breaks. And so the bottom is an example of a poster for a student research project. So students have to take 4 classes a semester, 32 classes to graduate. And so your junior, senior year, you could take on an independent study and really delve deeply into an issue that resonates with you. And so that's why I just wanted to put that example of the food insecurity. This is near and dear to Peter's heart, and maybe Riley's as well, if or any of those of you that work with kids.
Yeah, so HWS Core is kind of an umbrella term for our tutoring program, and it's a rather robust tutoring program here on campus. We host about 125 tutors. It is a work study position, meaning you get paid for your experience, working to support K-6 literacy at about 6 different schools, 6 days a week. So a typical shift is Monday, Wednesday, for about 2 hours each. We provide plenty of professional development and all of the resources and training to support the tutors to be effective literacy coaches. And we're really, really proud of the students and the work that they do because we've aligned our work with the science of reading. For those of you that are thinking about education or thinking about working with young people, you know that literacy is incredibly important in the K3 range because at third grade, you start to read for meaning. And if that's not strong foundation, you're going to start to quickly fall behind. And so you can see some of our tutors in action here, and we're so proud of the work that they do. If you're familiar with Boys and Girls Club, they host our tutors at both locations of theirs here in Geneva. So really incredible experience. We just hosted a puppets and pedagogy training where we had 2 puppeteers and Broadway actors come and kind of share with us how do we incorporate fun into literacy learning. And it was really incredible to watch a bunch of, 18, 20, 22-year-old adults kind of their body language change when the puppet came to life. So even as adults, we can still have fun when we're learning.
So true. And I love that it's Monday through Friday after school, but for folks in the sciences or in athletics who can't maybe tutor local kids at that time frame, there's a Saturday Academy option, which I think is a popular choice. And this is another one of our thriving partners, the Boys and Girls Club. And this is just a reminder of that embedded ways in which we reflect and learn and grow and serve in the classroom and outside of the classroom. Very much curricular, co-curricular balance. That's a team of the civic leaders who happen to be team leaders that Peter just does an amazing job supporting. It's just a phenomenal program. Service learning classes are another robust initiative, often 100 or so students per semester in different classes, ranging from economics of caring to introduction to sociology, to teaching children with disabilities, to economic inequality, where as part of the course learning objectives, the faculty has said, hey, we need you to be out in the community learning from our community partner coeducators. So these are 2 wonderful students who are working at the Linden Exchange, which is a consignment shop downtown. No paid staff, 100% of the proceeds stay local. So just briefly, not to torture you, but just the fact that students often say in a service learning class, these are the things that they're cultivating and learning. And then, of course, we do work very closely with career services because we want our students to put down the tutor core, put down leadership with HWS votes, lists that they were part of a service learning class because these are the skills that we know employers are looking for. And certainly you can demonstrate that you've acquired those when you're out and about in our beautiful community.
We have a great partnership with the local schools in Geneva, probably one of our closest partners. And so I had referenced Head Start was ultimately what propelled me into education. We work closely with our Head Start and our local ABCD program, which is a pre-K program supporting migrant workers and their families to meet the needs and wants of the about 80 students in Geneva. And the campus community is so generous when it comes to that. We get these big leaf bags out. We fill them with all of the wants and needs of each child, and then we get to hand deliver those to the school sites, who then provide them to the families to provide to their children. And so I'm sure many of you have been part of toy drives and clothing drives and things of that nature. Always such a fun holiday opportunity here in Geneva as well. Alternative spring break trips are an incredible experience to go ahead and commit yourself to a week of giving back as opposed to the traditional experience of maybe going home, laying on the couch, or going down to, a beach or something of that nature. So we have three trips that we run traditionally year over year. One is to Rural Migrant Ministries in Lyons, New York, an incredible statewide organization fighting for, advocating, and supporting migrant workers and their families. We actually had four students attend with them this past spring break, and I believe all four of them are interning with them this summer. So talk about experience translating to opportunity. That's a pretty incredible, story to share. We also traveled down to Pocahontas State Park in Virginia, the largest state park in the Virginia State Park system, who are incredible hosts to us and who help us think about what does it take to manage a state park system and environmental conservation, and things of that nature. And then the third trip that we traditionally take is to Marion Boyd Elementary School in Norlina, North Carolina, a small little community. And it was actually started by a former Hobart grad who served in his Teach for America year there, said, "Hey, I think my peers might want to come down here." They started by putting them up in host stays, having the students come in and work with the students during the school day. And we now travel down to one of the local churches who is managed by the former principal of that school. And so the community just keeps on giving, and they are so gracious to welcome us back each and every year. So truly life-changing experiences, and you also get to create some really incredible relationships at the same time.
So true. Someone was just talking about recycling. So this is a hoot. Peter just recruited an amazing team, and they stay on campus for the first few weeks of May, and they happily collect all the items that students leave behind in the mad dash to head home for the semester or head off to internships and whatnot. So we used to sell it, and then we would make about $10,000 in 5 hours. That gives you an example of the upcycling happy chaos. But COVID helped us rework that model, and we decided to stick with the way that we do it now, where we just do direct donations to community partners. So it's a fun few weeks, and we laugh a lot. Do you want to speak about Geneva 2030 briefly, and then we can
Sure.
open it up for questions?
Yeah, so Geneva 2030, we're really uniquely positioned to have a collective impact organization that's housed within our office. So Geneva 2030 is a convener. They pull together community organizations that support Geneva youth cradle to career. We're comprised of about 8 different action teams, and those action teams are on the screen there. Everything from how do we support students with college and career readiness, birth to kindergarten readiness, bilingual education. We have a large Spanish speaking population in Geneva, food security, parent and community connections, and literacy. I don't think literacy is up there. So literacy is the action team that I co-lead. So how do we really think about supporting Geneva youth as they get ready to enter the school system? Some of the really incredible programs that Geneva 2030 hosts. We bring every second, sixth, and ninth grader to a day on the Hobart William Smith campus. While their favorite part of the day is eating in our dining hall, we do love to give them exposure to one, can they see themselves on a college campus? What are the opportunities on a college campus? And then we try and enrich their day with things they may not get while they're back at their K-12 school experience. So looking into a microscope and building stomp rockets and exploring the solar system. And so that's just one example of the many ways that Geneva 2030 works to support Geneva youth cradle to career.
We have them sign a pledge, and it always sounds so futuristic, like I am the class of 2042, and it's so crazy, but it's so true. Sorry, I drank all the lemonade. That's my favorite because we do some intense outreach, and they do love the Van de Voort food and whatnot. So we can share the last slide with our contact information if folks have questions, but happy to see if I don't know if Dylan, if you said there were any questions, we're happy to chat.
Yeah, well, thank you both so much for kind of giving I say a general overview, but there's so many things to get involved in and kind of give back to our community and beyond. So thank you so much for kind of presenting the menu of all the different options. One of the questions that I would ask of you, so for our civic scholars that are on today's call, can you talk a little bit about sort of the expectations of being a civic scholar at HWS?
For sure. We have typically, I expected them to do either 10 hours of each semester or three things in terms of like a commitment to attend and engage and reflect. So that's the format that we've been working with. And often, students like yourselves on the call today, you might end up wanting to tutor, which happens to be far more than 10 hours a semester, or if you wanted to, take on an initiative with a club day of service and you help lead the October event, you're going to blink and, you've made a bunch of friends and you didn't even realize you happened to also fulfill that requirement. So we host a couple receptions, usually at the beginning of the semester, and then at the end as well, so that we can have folks network with each other as well as the upper class students who are part of the network. And EMS is totally, absolutely way to fill that, which is a fantastic question. We work very closely with our Centennial Center for Leadership. So when you arrive on campus, should you choose to enroll, we'll be co-located, the Center for Community Engagement and Service Learning, with the Centennial Center. And they have a Centennial Scholars program as well. So we have a neat kind of Venn diagram of partnership with that initiative.
Awesome. Thank you, Katie.
Yeah.
There is a question in the chat. The question is, are there opportunities for students to engage in community-based research projects with local organizations?
Ooh, I love that question. And yes, so let me just show a slide because I was worried that I was talking too much. But tomorrow actually is our our Community Engaged Scholarship Forum, where students present their findings essentially, which they've worked on for the semester with a community partner. So it's a poster session. Hopefully you can see this picture. And community-based research, you could do it any time throughout your 4 years. Typically, students do it junior or senior year. It does count as one of those 4 classes that I was mentioning. So there's our poster for tomorrow. We have our Community Partner of the Year award. We often refer to our community partners as co-educators because, all these intractable issues that we're reflecting upon, environmental degradation or, aging in a solo environment, housing access in a time of, upstate economy shifting. Those are the things that you learn from your community partners, and you draw upon classes from sociology, public policy, education, perhaps your study abroad. And so you're reflecting even on, a different community that you've worked on. So 1000% yes. And tomorrow happens to be the day. It's called HWS Day, where there's a whole scope of projects and learnings and presentations and moderated panels and performances. And our sponsored project is from 4 to 5, as well as a philanthropy class that I'm happy to share at this time that it's a 4-year commitment. So this is President Guerin right here. This is the philanthropy class this semester. This is the pilot year, so we'll have 3 more. Should you choose to enroll, we'd love to have you in it. We're a community foundation, gives us $20,000 to award to community nonprofit organizations. And the students get to interview and decide who that goes to. So this semester we received actually over $200,000 of requests. And we're actually the community foundation upped it to 25,000 because they just felt pretty bad for the students to make those classes, those decisions. So lots of hands-on learning opportunities available. Great question.
Katie, I'm going to take Sean's question, but if you want to start
Sure.
to think about Godfred's question, because these are so thoughtful, I love these questions. So, Sean, it sounds like you've got some incredible experiences to bring with you to Geneva here. The bagpipes, let's start there, right? For those of you that are musically inclined, we have an incredible St. Peter's Arts Academy, which provides reduced or at cost music lessons, not only music, but performing arts lessons. So be it dance or things of that nature, to local Geneva youth. And they are incredible musicians. So one of our students, who is serving in an AmeriCorps Vista position right now, just interned with St. Peter's Arts Academy and helped to host their annual gala that raises money to support scholarships to that program. I know they're always looking for additional instructors and things of that nature. So certainly a talent to bring with you. And then when it comes to, the city community garden, my mind's running in so many different places. We have about 3 community gardens in Geneva that support the surrounding residential communities, and those are hosted in part by Blueprint Geneva, which is an incredible grassroots organization that does a number of different initiatives. They just opened a community kitchen. Every Sunday, a different community partner will go ahead and cook a meal. The community can purchase that meal, pay what you can. So if you can't pay anything, you're still welcome to the meal. And so Geneva 2030, we just hosted one of those meals, and we made beans and greens for those of you that are familiar with that upstate New York meal. Typically, it's an escarole and cannellini bean mixture. So you got your protein and your veggies. But they also do a meat CSA, again, at or reduced cost for families. So they're an incredible organization that hosts many of our students. And then when it comes to supporting animals, we've recently created a nice relationship with an organization that's just south of Geneva called Sweet Farm. It's an animal sanctuary, and they host our students on every day of service. And we often have students going to them every weekend, because as you know, right, animals are in need of constant care, and so they can't get enough help. And so they've got pigs and turkeys, and I'm pretty sure they've got a cow at this point. And so incredible hosts to our students, and always looking for additional assistance. So we're looking forward to having
Godfrey,
yeah, go ahead, Katie.
your questions are fantastic. So, how does HWS facilitate mentorship opportunities for students in civic engagement? So, you're looking at it. Peter and I are really, hands-on. And then, we have this phenomenal team of civic leaders that I mentioned at the beginning, where we hope that students take on leadership roles, and then as juniors or seniors become civic leaders. So certainly some of our civic scholars become civic leaders. So there's some peer mentorship involved. But in terms of mentorship more broadly, we have a very intentional program throughout orientation where there's a Spark initiative where it's like a kind of like a mini class, just 2 days over late August during orientation. And you're allowed to pick the topic of that. So a number of those might be civic engagement related. So Peter and I have facilitated Sparks in the past, but there's also a number of faculty and staff members that also host Sparks that have a civic engagement connection. So that Spark mentor is an opportunity to connect early on, as well as the first year mentor program. You can have a first year mentor peer leader in a first year seminar. So I know that's a lot of different words coming at you, but lots of structures in place for you to connect with people intentionally. But in terms of civic engagement, there are, fraternities, there's a sorority, athletics, student engagement. So we're not the only way that you can get involved in the community, but we are certainly very happy to help. And then your other question, you are encouraged to do a number of others co-curricular activities. We would not profess to take all of your time. So, and we always encourage people to double dip. So if you're in a service learning class, because you happen to be enrolled in intro to sociology or something like that, great, you just met your civic engagement expectation, or EMS or something like that. Go ahead.
If I may brag for a minute, and Katie and I are both visual people, so we love to show our Instagram. So definitely give us a follow there. But I think as you start to look through, you'll start to see familiar faces if you kind of been familiar with the Hobart Williams Smith webpage. You may have seen Maggie Mahoney's face here on the pitch competition, which is an entrepreneurial idea competition, in competition for $10,000 to kickstart your idea. Jack here so the two of them are our day's service leaders. Jack is involved in Katie's course. He's also involved with the fraternity. He's all over campus. And so as you start to kind of see, Nico is one of our civic leaders within our office as a theme house manager, as a Rotaract civic leader, and also a Hobart basketball player. So our students are impressive, and we know that you all are as well. So you're joining a great group who are willing to mentor and advise and support you within the community that we call Cecil.
Yeah. And I appreciate you both giving like those really unique examples, right? I think that kind of speaks to and encourages students, we hope, to kind of take what you are already doing or kind of your passions and bring it to our community. Because we certainly want to encourage you to not just leave things behind when you're coming to HWS. We want you to kind of bring those things to our community. And I guess one of my questions that I got a private message about, but there's so many options, right? There's a lot of ways to get involved and sort of give back, right? What sort of advice would you give a first year student when they're kind of looking for, what community service related initiative to sort of jumpstart or sort of kickstart their way of giving back?
I'll take the first stab and then Peter have at it. I think there's two ways to look at it. Either I'm really interested in the environment or, working with children. I'm really concerned about issues impacting XYZ. And then you find that opportunity here and you go deep early on. Or you take the other approach, like, I'm not really sure. What could I get involved in? Come see us. We're always in Trinity Hall. Talk to one of our student leaders and just try things out. Geneva has a population of about 13,000 people, small city. I'm just popping in the chat. The food menus, and for a small community, we have a ton of different offerings, which I point out just to show you how diverse our community is, so that when you get off campus and you kind of try to see yourself as a Genevan and not just an HWS student, then you can kind of um go from there. We had a lunch today with Nate, who is a coordinator, and he said, it's almost hard to not get involved on this campus because it's just right there. Whether people are recruiting and scanning, seeing emails or social media or peer shoulder tapping. So from those vantage points, we just hope you can see yourself. How about you, Peter? What would you say?
Having been a student, I would just encourage you to be open-minded. In my first service learning course, I got placed at an animal shelter, and I would drive, this other football player and I'm a pretty small guy, and so they put us in with these rowdy dogs, and I literally remember standing there with my hands under my armpits, nervous because I wasn't familiar with dogs. I wasn't raised with dogs, and the football player kind of taught me, like, you just gotta kind of knock them down if they jump up on you, and we did our duties that we were responsible for. But then I found in the second semester myself in a placement with the pre-K students, and I said, I can see myself here, right? This is my speed. And I learned from the educators that I was serving alongside, and who ultimately encouraged me and helped me prepare that application to the teacher education program, and ultimately propelled me into the career that I am in today. So being open, and I loved your reflections, Katie, that if there is something that you're passionate about, we likely have it here, right? And we can support you in finding that. So.
All right. Well, I see we have one more question in the chat. And then, certainly feel free to reach out after today's session. Katie just dropped both Katie and Peter's email in there. So if you have any questions after today's call, do not hesitate, especially in the coming months ahead, before you step foot on campus. But to kind of wrap things up, and Kate, I know you talked a little bit about mentorship. So what do you think like some of the challenges that some of our civic scholars might face, and sort of how did maybe the upperclassmen that are engaged in community service sort of support maybe our younger generation of our civic leaders?
Um, so this is something kind of specific to just time management. I feel like sometimes students want to get involved with so many things, and might not always know how to manage their time. And so I'm always trying to teach students how to use Outlook calendar. So if you have a service learning class and you're placed at Sweet Farm or the YMCA or the Boys and Girls Club, you put that in as a repeating calendar. And I know this sounds like so micro logistics. But then you get that reminder pop up, which I have seen students struggle, like, oh my gosh, I forgot, or oh, I didn't know where it was. And so if, just reminding you people to put in the calendar invite, the lunch program is located on Exchange Street. So that, and then I think just I don't know if it's a challenge. I think if you find maybe that it can be difficult to invite a friend or a peer or somebody you don't know along with you, I just really encourage people to do that because it's such a small community, 13,000, and there's the community members are so glad that you have picked Hobart and William Smith because they feel like you picked Geneva too, which of course you did. So when you go to these places and you have a friend and you engage authentically, it's just, outside of your comfort zone a little bit. It's a new city, it's a new community, you're not sure where to go. But the rewards just come back tenfold. So I don't know, Peter, what do you think in terms of how civic scholars maybe help each other?
Yeah, I think I my mind immediately went to the nonpartisan work that HWS Votes does. I'm currently reading a kind of where is Gen Z when it comes to voter engagement and democratic participation, and there's three buckets, right? Those that are healthy optimistics, those that are feeling a little dissatisfied but don't quite know what to do, and those that are frustrated beyond belief, right? And so I think sometimes when we get on campuses and we want to make changes and we want to see changes, it's about activating and getting a group rallied and excited about a certain topic or initiative. And so, as Katie mentioned, like grabbing that friend and saying, "Hey, let's just go check this out," or "Hey, might you be interested in?" And I would kind of point to the Food Recovery Network, which is a group here on campus that has had a presence on campus for quite some time, and it's had some really dedicated students who have really kind of kept it going. But this year, they have just exploded with excitement and enthusiasm for the work that they're doing, and have hosted a number of food drives, actually a PB&J making drive. I think they made something like 1,000 PB&Js. And so it takes that small group of people to really energize and kind of lift a program. And so finding that balance of how do I engage others when there's so many things going on, but it starts with a friend. So
Awesome. Well, I want to thank Peter and Katie again for your time this evening and kind of giving us all the opportunities that are available at Hobart and William Smith to sort of give back to campus, our Geneva community, regionally, nationally, internationally, and being a civic scholar along the way. So thank you both. Certainly feel free to reach out to any of us if you do have any further questions. Again, congratulations on your admission to Hobart and William Smith and for being a civic scholar. We are so looking forward to welcoming you all to campus this August, which is just around the corner, shockingly. So thank you all again and enjoy the rest of your evening and the rest of your week ahead. Take
Good
care,
luck as
everyone.
you wrap up your senior year. Congrats again, everybody. Hope to see you soon. Thank you.